Hello guys, you're welcome back to the channel, and today we are just going to be learning about loops. This is in continuation um of the introduction to Python basics training that we've started. So if you've not watched the other videos like the variables, operators, conditionals and all of that, please go ahead and watch them now before you continue, for you to be able to have a good background of what we are doing here. So having said that, I'm just going to introduce us to loops now. So like I said before, loops actually happen to be one of those general programming concepts that you will see across different programming languages. All right. So loop is a way of you executing a statement or block of statement or your block of code repeatedly for a particular number of time, right? Or until a particular condition is met. So there are two ways that Python actually specify loops. But before we go there, I would like to show you the highlight of what we have to learn. We've seen the definition of loop. I will see types of loops in Python. We'll also see how to use the for loop, which is the first type, and then the while loop, and then we'll see how to interrupt the flow of our loop. So let's just get into it. Let's talk about the types of loops, the for loop and the while loop. For the for loop, these are actually not all the differences, but I just brought out these key differences out for us to be able to see them. So for loop is used when the number of iteration is known. So you know the number of time you want to repeat something, you know you use your for loop. But while loop on the other hand, you don't know the number of time to repeat, but then you have a condition. So far the condition executes to true, the loop will keep repeating until the condition is false. So that's the difference between the two. So once you have the number of iteration at hand, then go ahead and use your for loop. But if not, use your while loop. Okay. Then for loop runs infinitely if no condition is specified. So if there is no condition, then it will keep running. This one throws an error if there is no condition, because that's the key thing. Key thing it actually works with. Okay. Initialization in your for loop is done at the beginning of the loop. We'll see that when we get to the practical session. Why in your while loop, you can actually specify, you can initialize at any point in time in your code. Okay. Then the for loop has been set to be faster than while loop, especially when used with the range function. So we'll see that even as we go on. So without wasting our time, I would like us to get straight into the practical session of this training, please. So make sure that you are right there, stay right there, open your IDE. I'm using Google Colab. All right, so we are starting with for loop, and we've been able to mention the differences between while loop and for loop. One of the obvious difference is the syntax, right? Let's see how to create or how to use for loop in Python. All right, so I'm just going to start by introducing us to the range function, which is something we actually, you know, get used to a lot. So let's see, when you are creating a for loop in Python, the structure, the syntax is this: you use the keyword for followed by the iterator variable. So it can be anything. I'll call this I. For I, in then what are you, in this case I'm actually using a range function, so I'll just say for I in range, now in brackets, because range is a function. Now I will specify the range I want to go, so probably 10. I'll explain what this is going to do. I want to print high. Now it's just going to print indexes for me, but what this is just saying is that I want to print all the items within this range of 10. That means from 0 to 10. Now we already know how Python counts from 0, not from 1. That means here 10 will not be inclusive in our output. Included in our output, we'll have 0 to 9. So let's see what it's going to bring out for us. All right, so we're able to print out this. Now it's not all the time you just want to print numbers. Like we said, we can use for loop. You can use your loop to actually um repeat an execution, to repeat statements. All right, so if I have a statement that is just printing hello world, I can use this and it's going to print hello world for me for this number of time. So it's printed hello world 10 times for me. Okay, so I can use my loop to actually repeat a particular statement or group of block of statements or block of code. All right, so let's move forward and see another example. For, like I said, we can use anything. Okay, so I can say for k in range maybe 3 this time. What do I want to do? I just want to probably uh print. All right, so for our range function, we actually have other parameters, right? We have three. We have the start, the stop, and then the step, right? So here, for the ones we've seen, the two that we wrote earlier, you can see that we just specify a single number. So when you specify a number like that, it's going to assume a default for the start and for the step. And the default for the start is going to be 0, while the default for this step is going to be 1. All right, so but let's specify something here. So for high in range, so I'm going to say start from 0, go to 10, and then skip 2 steps or move 2 steps. So let's see what that is going to. So I can actually use this to just print even numbers from 0 to 10. So I will say print I, print those numbers. Let's see. All right, so I have my 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, so if I want to maybe alter this to make it to print just odd numbers, all I just have to do here is to change the starting point. So if you start from 1, it's going to skip 2 and then go into 3. So let's see. And then I have my even numbers, right? So we can always specify the step we want. All right, we are not, and we can start from any number. We don't have to start from 0 or 1. So can we see it? Then you can make your step to be something bigger or something smaller. All right, so that's for range function. So you will use range function a lot, so that's why I have to actually introduce that to us first. So let's go to another aspect of using our loop. We can use our loop to iterate over sequence like list, like dictionary, like tuple, like which other one. So let's just see. Let's start with a list. All right, so I created a list here, list of months. Okay, so let's print this on a no, yeah. So when we print, like we learned when we started learning about list and all of that, we saw that when we print, we just see it almost looking like what we have when we created it, right? But I said there was a neater way, which I didn't want us to jump into it as at that time. So let's see how to do that now. So if I want to print this item in a neater way, all I just have to do is to create a an iterator variable. So here I'll just call it month, which can be anything. And then my another keyword is in. So for each month, in month, the name of the sequence. So this is the sequence that I want to go through, this list here. Then I press enter. What do I want to see? I just want it to print month for me. All right, so can we see the difference? The first print is the one that is printing outside the for loop, and then the second one is the one printing within the for loop. All right, so you will notice that I actually didn't say print month, which is the name of the sequence. I'm saying month, the name of my iterator variable. Okay, so let's see if it's going to do anything differently if I print month, the one with S. So can we see what it did? So all it's just going to do is to keep printing this raw list and print it for the number of time, for the number of elements we have in this list. So it's just going to be, it's going to be working similarly to what we have here when we're specifying a range. So just repeating the statement for a particular number of time rather than picking each item in the what's it called now, list. So I'll change this back to S, and I will just add something for us to know that we just, it's not every time we just print something directly. So in, let's see what this does. Alright, so it's created a statement, a full sentence for me. In January, God is good. In February, God is good, and all of that. So you can actually just play around that. We'll see more examples as we go on. So let's see how to. Yeah, we already know this particular list. I think I promised us earlier that we are going to use that list again when we get to loop. Okay, so let's see how to use that list as well. So in, let me say item, for item in items. Items was the list we created under in the other video. Okay, so we have print item. So for all the examples that we used earlier, you can actually just try using loop to print the item or to perform whatever operation you want to perform on them. So let's, all right, so for dictionary, let's just see. I'll say for, now let me just reference the key. For key in, what's the name of the dictionary? Underscore final, yeah, that one. And then what do I want to print? I want to print, if I'm printing key, let's see, list and dictionary, they are a bit, they are different. Okay, so we are not really referencing the index position like we were referencing here when we say item, when we said item, but here we are referencing the key, so we shouldn't forget that. So I will just say, yeah, so it only brought out the keys pointing to each value. Okay, so what I just want to do is to have the key and at the same time have the value. So this is the point. I will just say final, yeah, and then use the key to point to them. I hope you actually, so I'm more or less like indexing here, right? So let me see. So we have 2018 was played in Russia, 2014 Brazil, South Africa 2010, Germany 2006. Okay, so we see that it's a bit different from the way we did for list, right? So the same thing for string. In fact, you can use your loop to iterate over any sequence type that you have. Okay, we have your string is just a sequence of characters, right? So you can print each character like we did before. So for I in name, or let me just change the I to letter in name. Name is the name, I mean, is the variable name for the, let me show you. I believe anyone following should know where I'm getting those names from by now. Coming, I think we still have it. So this is the dictionary I was referring to for the dictionary example. This is the one for tuple. Let's see. This is the one for items, and then this is name. This is where we created a variable name. All right. So I just don't want us to get confused as to where I'm getting those names from. Where were we? All right. For letter in name, I want to just print each letter, and then I have my, yes, I have the characters in my name printed like that in a neater format than what we had before. So print the elements of tuple. I want you to do this by yourself using the same approach that we use for the list, for the string and all of that. So all right, so what we are going to do next is to just see how to use this same loop to perform maybe a bit of math. Is it always about printing? No. So let's see. I just want to add, so it says create a list of 10 numbers. All right, so let me call the list num list is equal to 10, 30, 30, 80. I don't know if it's up to 10 yet. Should be 3, 3, 3. Yeah, so that's 10. All right. So create a list of 10 numbers, add all the numbers together. So how do we add this together? Do we start saying numbers, um, point to the index position? In fact, let's just try that and see. Okay. Sum is equal to, excuse me, sum is equal to the index position, the first one, plus second one. Come on, let me print sum. Just to, okay, so it's added the first two numbers. So if I want to add everything, I have to start saying num 2, num at index position 2, 3, 4, down to 9. But that would not be necessary, okay? So we can just use our loop to do that, right? So all I would do is just say for maybe num underscore list, what should happen? I'll first make my sum to be 0, and then we remember our operator. I'll just say sum plus equals what? Num. So all this is just going to do is to keep adding each number here, right? At each index position, pick the number, add it to what we had in sum before. I explained this extensively when we were talking about assignment operators under Python operators. So if you have not watched that video, please go ahead and watch the video. Okay, so sum is equal to that, yes, and I can just print sum. So I want to make an error here and print sum here, just for you to know the power of indentation in Python. So we see what it is actually doing. This is not what we want. We want the addition of everything together. Okay, so I'm not going to be printing some here. Anything you don't want repeated should not be embedded in your um for loop or in your loop. Okay, so I'll bring this out, and then let's see what happens, and then we'll have the sum of everything. Okay, so I think that works. All right, so create and populate a list. All right, so we are going to work on a task, and it's going to be a task that we've been working on before. We use this example under conditionals, which is the grading system. Now let's see how to actually collect more than one um, value using our loop into our list, right? So we're going to populate our list with that. So I created an empty list. I called the list scores, and then I'm just going to use the loop to populate the list. So for score, okay, I would just rather use a range because I just want them to specify. So for range, maybe 5. So I will assume they are taking 5 courses for range 5. I will also show us how to make this more dynamic in such a way that they by themselves will be the one to enter the number of scores they want to record actually. So for, oh, I missed out my iterator variable. So let me just say for high in range 5. Then I will use my input statement, right? But this time I'll first say score dot append. Think remember our append function that adds an element to the end of the list. So we have score dot append. What do we want to append? We want to get an input from the console. Input, enter score. Okay, so this should actually be in a quote, just a prompt. Or I'll rather put it this way, I'll just make this an empty bracket and instead just print a statement here that says the scores. Okay, so let's see how that goes. And so as not to waste our time, I'll just convert this directly to integer because I think I already explained that, so we can watch that video also for the explanation. Alright, so it's going to allow us to be able to enter our scores. Alright, so let's see. Okay, so what do we have there? Name score is not defined. Oh, sorry, that's supposed to be scores. Alright, so the first score 30, 60, 50, 90. Oh, I entered 0. So these are the scores that I've entered here, right? So these are the scores I've entered. You can also perform your mathematical operation on these particular scores that you have actually entered. You can sum. I can create a sum here and say sum is equal to what's it called? Sum is equal to 0, and then I come here and add my sum equal. I'll just use my plus equals mm, scores at I. So what this will do is it will take each score at each the score at each index position and add it to 0 and keep adding until there is no index to access anymore. Okay, so I will just print my sum the way we did earlier, and then I will have print total score is equal to sum. So let's see what this is going to give us. Oh, sorry, where is the mistake coming from? It says score is not defined. On what line? Oh, so I keep actually saying score. That's scores. Okay, I think I'm actually just going to score 100. Go through here. Okay, so I have the total of 500, right? So we can see how to another way to use that. So what I want to do is not just to get a sum. What I want to do here is to calculate the grade based on the score they enter. So I'm just going to probably copy that code. Mm, if grade is this, okay. So we're here. If excuse me, remove that from there. If score, so this time it's going to be if score, if scores at, then you specify the index position, right? So for all the score, I'm just going to change this, and I'm just going to add this. Okay, so you notice that I actually indented this conditionals right inside my for loop because that's what I want to achieve actually. Okay, I can just keep that one there anyways. So if score is greater than this, grade is equal to A. Alright, so what I would like to do is let's see how this works first. But I would have loved that we, as you enter this call, it print out your grade. So I think that would be better. So I'll say print grade. Okay. And then okay. Let's see this again. Yeah, I see A, and then I enter the next call Q. Store cannot be recorded, so it allows me to enter another one. So okay. Oops, I use call. Yeah. So this is the power of copy and paste, which is cool, but you just have to pay attention to every detail. I think I'm out on it. Yeah. So my range is 50. I'm expecting he. Something missing here. 60. I'm expecting the 100. I'm expecting he. Um, 70. I'm expecting C. How many? I think we specified five. Okay, it's not up to five, I guess. 55. I'm expecting E, and that's the end of the list. So what I said is we can make this more flexible for the user in such a way that they are the one to specify the number of courses they are taking. So what we just do is to make a request and say num courses is equal to, sorry, I'm just going to copy. Well, let me just not copy int into bracket, input into bracket. How many courses do you want to record? So right here, whatever number they enter is what we are going to use in our range. I hope that makes sense. Let's see. How many courses do you want to enter? I'm going to enter two. So right here, the loop is going to run twice this time now. So I'm going to have 60, 100, and that will be the end. So do we understand that now? I think that's good enough example, but you can also browse and check more examples on how to, implement this. There are a lot of scenarios where you will need your loop, your for loop, most especially. Okay.